will faithfully execute the office.
Well, this year marks 50 years since John F. Kennedy took over as America's president, and even now, JFK and the entire Kennedy family continue to fascinate the world, as Peter Harvey reports.
John F. Kennedy was one of America's most popular presidents.
I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
He was an icon of the 20th century and remains one of history's greatest leaders.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
He brought his Camelot family into the White House, but even while in office, there were rumours of liaisons with other women, including Grace Kelly, Jane Mansfield and Marilyn Monroe.
Happy birthday, Mr. President.
President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time.
His death in 1963 didn't end the world's fascination with the Kennedys or the gossip. While Jackie Kennedy would eventually remarry, there were whispers that she also had affairs with both of JFK's brothers, Teddy and Bobby. The brothers themselves also harboured a few secrets. Bobby was linked to the mafia, while Teddy was an infamous womanizer.
My conduct and conversations during the next several hours, to the extent that I can remember them, make no sense to me at all.
Political power, hidden scandals, love affairs, the Kennedys continue to fascinate the world.
And an explosive new book about the Kennedys has just been released, which reveals all kinds of family secrets. Danforth Prince is the co-author of the book, and I spoke to him a little earlier. Danforth Prince, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Good day, mates. Thank you.
So much has been written about the Kennedys over the years. What makes your book different?
We opted to publish the stories about the Kennedys that had never been published before, the oral histories, the gossipy, raunchy tales with new information which has been released about the Kennedys, most recently since the death of Ted Kennedy in 2009. We really believe that it takes 50 years for an administration to be viewed correctly, to be assessed properly. When JFK was elected to power, there really was not tabloid coverage of the way that we know it today. If there had been, in light of the number of shocking allegations about his life, his administration, and that of his family, he probably would not have been elected. Ironically, if he had not been assassinated in Dallas, there would have begun a series of investigations which would have uncovered many horrifying things, including the rather startling allegation, which really was a rumor until it was recently admitted, that he was a bigamist. He had been married before to a socialite named Dury Malcolm. Chuck Spaulding, who was a Kennedy family retainer, admitted at the end of his life that he had indeed removed the marriage certificate from the Palm Beach County Courthouse. But if that had been uncovered, and of course Hoover had records of that, it would have meant certainly the end of Camelot, and it would have implied that Jackie was not really JFK's wife and that his two children in the White House were illegitimate.
Let's talk about the many women in JFK's life, and much of your book is dedicated to this. How does Jane Mansfield fit into the story?
If you accept the fact that JFK liked two types of women, the brunettes seem to have been patterned after Elizabeth Taylor, and the blondes seem to have been patterned after Marilyn Monroe, and if you accept the fact that Jane Mansfield was something of a Marilyn Monroe clone, you must applaud Jane, because she, unlike Marilyn, was the one who aggressively ended this toxic relationship she had with JFK by cutting it off early. The allegation was that JFK's tastes were growing too kinky even for her. There was a dialogue in the Polo Lounge at the Beverly Hills Hotel. Several witnesses heard her breaking up with JFK loudly. She said, "Mr. President, whereas you will be president for the very most 8 years, please remember that I will be a movie star forever. And I don't want to see you again. Slam."
And what about Grace Kelly? She had an interesting relationship with Jackie Kennedy.
Grace really did fall in love with JFK. He was really the man who got away. She later, of course, married Rainier of Monaco. It was a very stylish marriage. But then when JFK became president, Grace realized with some degree of bitterness that rather than having been the princess of a small principality on the south coast of France, where she was always to some degree a foreigner, she may indeed have played her cards differently and become First Lady of America. Jackie hated Grace. Jackie had been accused by her husband Jack in Hyannisport during a horrible fight they had. Jack said to Jackie that he should have married Grace instead of her because she was just a piece of Bouvier trash. So years later, I think it was 1962, a year after JFK rose to power, to the White House comes Grace Kelly, who was a very stylish woman, but that day she wore a very ill-chosen hat. And Letitia Baldridge, who was Jackie's social secretary made fun of the hat and compared it to a rubber bathing cap that Esther Williams would have made in one of her Aquacade movies from the 40s.
Danforth, I just wanted to ask you quickly just about Jackie's links to both Bobby and Teddy Kennedy.
I think the world is very aware of her emotional link to Bobby Kennedy. In the wake of Jack's assassination, I think she was in a desperate mood. There was talk of her committing suicide, actually. But I don't think that's the most shocking new piece of news. What really was revealed in 2009 was that Teddy Kennedy fell desperately in love with Jackie, and Teddy Kennedy filled in as a replacement for both Bobby and Jack in Jackie Kennedy's life, negotiated the prenuptial agreement before the marriage with Onassis, and worked through the death details and the estate settlement after the death of Onassis. And Teddy claimed in his diary that he had loved her since he had been a teenager. Deep currents of passion that run through this very complicated family.
Danforth Prince, it's a fascinating read, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
Wow, I feel battered. He's a machine gun, that guy.
He knows so much about the Kennedys, and I've got another book coming out about Frank Sinatra, so stay tuned for that.